Pirkei Avos. Today we're learning a Mishnah from Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Who was Rabbi Chanina? Very good, very good. Who was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa? Very interesting person. Rabbi Chanina, all these people, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, he was also one of the pupils of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Interesting, it says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 pupils, and remember we learned that? It was in the second chapter. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 pupils, and what was their names, and Rabbi Shimon, etc. And the Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch and Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, and now we have all these other pupils from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai also. So that's what the Rebbe says, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a lot of pupils, but these were 5 categories of pupils. Anyway, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was really strange. He was really just a huge, amazing tzaddik, and there was all sorts of amazing miracles that were done with him. Here you'll see in the Kahati a few of the miracles that he did, but I'll tell you one miracle that he did, which is not written over here, and that is that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa once, he was very poor, tremendously poor person, and he saw people bringing sacrifices to Jerusalem. They would bring shlomim, these offerings they would bring just to go up to Yerushalayim, and he felt very bad because he didn't have any money. And one day he was out in the desert doing something, and he saw this beautiful, huge rock, a rock that was I don't know if you know it, but rocks are like really, really heavy. They're surprisingly heavy, a rock. I mean, if you get a big rock, like a boulder or whatever it is, anyway. So he sees this boulder, so he decides it really looks nice, so he starts polishing it up. He figures he'll just bring it, he'll have it set outside of, the entrance to Jerusalem or something, the entrance to the Holy Temple. It won't be in the Holy Temple, put it outside. So anyway, he gets this idea and he starts working on it, he shines it up and polishes it up. And now he says, okay, now I got to get some people to carry this thing to Jerusalem. So people go by and they say, this thing is really heavy. You'll have to have like 20, 30 people to carry this thing to Jerusalem. Can you pay? It'll cost you like, $5,000. So he said, okay, when we get there, I'll pay. They said, no, no one agreed. So he was sitting there, he felt pretty miserable. All of a sudden, there comes a bunch of healthy-looking fellows, and they said, he said, hey, can you help me carry this to Jerusalem? They said, sure, but it'll cost you like, $5,000. He says, I'll pay you when we get there. He said, no. They said, no problem whatsoever. He said, but you have to help us. So the thing weighed like, 30 tons or something. Who knows how much it weighed? Just impossible to lift up. It was impossible to lift up. So they said, but we can't do it unless you help us. So he was the skinny guy, he didn't work out or anything. They said, okay, that's it. So he put his hand underneath it, and they said, okay, everyone, there's all these 10, whatever is really strong guys. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, everybody close your eyes. 1, 2, 3, lift. And he lifted it up. And they said, okay, open your eyes. Boom, and there they were in Jerusalem. So all these fellows were standing around there. They were really, feeling good. And he said, wow, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Just wait right here, and I'll be right back. Meet me back here in another half an hour, and I'll bring the money. So he goes into the base of Midrash, and he brings the money. He gets the money. I think he even took it from Yochanan ben Zakkai, or maybe he took it from Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. I don't remember. Anyway, so he got the money, and he goes back to and the men aren't there. So he waits and he waits and he waits, and they don't come. So he can't figure out what's going on. So he goes and he asks, did anybody see the men? And nobody saw the men. So he goes and he asks the people, I think it was Rabbi Gamliel, I'm almost sure. And he asked them, he said, what should I do? And he said, tell me the whole story. And they said, it must be a bunch of angels that did it. They were malachim. They were angels that helped you. It was God sent them. He said, but if they were angels, why did they want me to help? He said, because that's a very important thing, that a person has to do something. And if a person does something, then Hashem will help him. You have to do the maximum. Right? Maximum. Rabbi Yochanan ben Dosa wasn't relevant, that he would lift up 10 pounds, 30, 20 pounds, whatever. And he was lifting up a thing that weighs 8,000 pounds, who knows what it is. And so they said a person has to do the maximum, and then the angels will help him. That's the story. Here you see some more miracles of Rabbi Yochanan ben Dosa. Let's look and see. Here we go. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, ready? Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, Haya Talmid of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was a pupil of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, which, if you remember, that was right in the time of the destruction of the temple. Who Ayam, of course, he was very famous, Chassiduto, in his righteousness, Ubetzidkaso, in his Chassiduto and his Tzidkato, in his holiness and his righteousness. V'haya also niflot, and he did a lot of miracles, Bekoach Tfilaso, with his prayer. The Gemara move on. The Gemara, it's brought in brachos. Ma'aseh Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Once he halach Torah, he went to learn Torah by Yochanan ben Zakkai. Chala ben Osha Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, got sick. Omer lo Chanina ben Ni. He said, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. He said, Chanina, my son, bikesh alav rachamim v'yichya. Do me a favor, pray for him. My son's dying. It ended up at Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Anyway. He niach rosho ben birkov. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa put his head between his knees. Bikesh rachamim, requested mercy from God, v'chia, and he came back to life. Omer Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, Il mole hitiach ben Zakkai at rosho. If I would put my head between my knees and pray to God the whole day, lo yamashgichim Allah. The God wouldn't listen to my prayers. So his wife said to him, Chanina ben Dosa is greater than you. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the ultimate great. He was the leader of the whole generation. He said back to his wife, Lav, no, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa is not greater than me. Elohu dome ke'eved lifnei melech, but he is like a servant in front of the king. Namely what? That he goes into the king and he, anytime he wants. Therefore, whatever he requests, he's answered immediately. And I am like a big, important minister. A minister, he only comes in when the king requests him. The king, Shaninu, and this is what we learn in Brachos. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said, he would pray on poor people, and he would say, Ze chai, ze met. He would know which ones his prayer worked and when his prayers did not work. He would say, this one's going to live and this one's not. Omar said, how do you know who's going to live and who's not? Mispalal alacholim. But Omar, he would say, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Omar lahem, he said back to them, Im shagora tefillah sebefi, if my prayers come out easily, yodeani shu makubal, then I know that God accepts it. But if not, yodeani shu maturaf, if I know my prayer has not been answered. Yoshu shu Rabbi Chanina, the honesty of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa and his purity and his trust in God, they were miraculous. Ad she'omer, till it says anshe emet, it says in the Gemara that explains in the Midrash, the Mechilta, that says that you have to look for judges that are anshe emes, people of truth. The example is Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. And the Brisa in the Gemara, it says, Maisa, once upon a time there was a story, B'makom echad, she'oyer arod or arvod. I think it's an arod. Arod is some sort of a weird, deadly serpent or something. Some really terribly scary reptile. Mazik lebriot. And it would jump out of its hole and it would bite people, kill them. They'd let Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. There's a whole thing, who runs to the river first, whatever. Omer Lahem, he said, Haroli et Choro, show me the hole of this arod. Haro et Choro, they showed him the hole. Natan akvo, he removed the shoe and he put his heel over the hole of this animal that everybody, this whatever it is, weird serpent, snake or something. Yatzav Neshcha came out and it bit him. Umeit oto arod, and the serpent died. Not lo katefo, he put it on his shoulder. Must have been pretty big. And he brought it to the place of learning. Omer lahem, he said, Banai, my children, my friends, ein arod memit ella achata achet mamit. The serpent does not kill, but sins are what kill. Sins. And he had no sins whatsoever. He was just totally devoted, trusting in God. No. But Oto Shah at that time, Omru, they said, Oilo lo adam shapaga lo arod, oilo lo arod shapaga bo Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. They said, woe is to any person that gets bitten by this serpent, and woe is the serpent that bites Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Let's see what Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa has to say. Holy person like this must have some pretty good advice for us. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said, Kol sheyirat cheto kodemet lechachmato mitkayemet. Anyone whose fear of sin, he's not afraid of punishment. He's afraid of the sin itself. He's afraid to go against God. Anyone who's afraid of sin, like we learned in the Chassidic in the morning. What did we learn? Remember we learned? Mius bara, someone disgusted by bad. A person who is disgusted, he's afraid of the sin itself. Well, it's like, what is it when a person is afraid? Let's say there's a wild dog, right? One of these Doberman. I remember once I went to somebody's house, and the guy had I didn't know it. I got out of my car, and he had this big Doberman pinscher in a dog house right outside of his door, outside of his dog house. Anyway, I got outside of my house, thinking about something, I don't know, all of a sudden, this thing jumped out at me. Luckily, it was on a big chain. Whoa, I jumped back. I was just so startled. I remember to this day, I was just so startled that I didn't know where it was coming from, I just jumped back in my car and I called the person up. I said, get that dog back. And it was just, I think you just see something like that, you just run away from it. Well, that's how you should feel with a sin, ideally. You should be afraid. That's what the Baal Shem Tov's father said to him. Don't fear anything except for God. Don't fear anything. Okay, I mean, I don't think the Doberman heard what the Baal Shem Tov said, but anyway, you're not supposed to be afraid of anything except for Hashem. That's what it means. I mean, a person who is afraid of sin, have that same fear of sin. If a person's fear of sin is before his wisdom, then his wisdom will be sustained. Okay, there's a lot of people that are very smart. The Jews are smart people, and there's a lot of people that are very smart, and they can be very smart in learning Torah. They can learn Torah, and they can even do Torah, and they can do the commandments, but they're not really afraid of God. They're not afraid of God. Exactly the opposite. They think that God owes them a lot. I'm learning Torah. God owes me a lot. So they're not afraid of Hashem. They're not afraid of a sin. They're not afraid of a sin. Exactly the opposite. They have millions of excuses they can make for doing, taking money not exactly right, and a little bit of politics, a little bit of this, and that. But so so he's not afraid so much of the sin as he is afraid of, losing, maybe somebody embarrassing him, being number two. That's what he's afraid of. So he says anyone who's afraid of sin more than he's afraid of his own personal losses, then his wisdom will be sustained. Let's look and see. Rabbi Yochanan Chanina ben Dosa Omer. Kol sheyirat cheto kodemet lechachmato. Right? That's who we are, right? Here we are. You have it there. See it in big letters? Right on the top. Very good. That he sees, fearing sin, he sees the purpose. He sees that fearing God is the whole purpose why he's learning. Why he's learning. Now, a person might think, hey, come on, fear is not a good thing. Why should we be afraid? So the answer is no, exactly the opposite. Fear means that there are, that everything's are defined. You don't go outside of definitions. I mean, God made the world in a way that it's defined. The world is defined. You decide you want to drive on the wrong side of the road. or you want to drive in reverse, you can do it, but a normal person would be afraid to do a thing like that. Maybe I'll hurt somebody else. Maybe I'll hurt myself. I mean, a person can't just eat whatever he wants to and do whatever he wants to, say whatever he wants to, think whatever he wants to, with whoever he wants to, when he wants to do it. A person has to have a certain sense of, right and wrong. They call it in English, they call it a conscience. That a person has to have a certain sense of a conscience that he's afraid to go against his conscience. Right? I don't lie. I'm not going to lie. Why? I'm not going to. That's all. Right? I'm not going to kill people. I'm not going to do it. They have movies that are made of this. So the last second, the guy can't pull the trigger. He can't whatever. So that's what it means. He fears. That's the purpose of learning Torah, is that you want to recognize the greatness of Hashem, and that makes you more able to realize what the true boundaries of life are. A person that has fear of God, then when he learns the Torah, his wisdom, his Torah wisdom, it is sustained. That the wisdom that he gets by means of learning Torah, then it reveals itself in his personality and in his deeds. Like it says, Reshit Chachma, the beginning of wisdom, Yirat Hashem, you have to have the fear of God. And that was the whole problem. When there was the time of the Alter Rebbe, and a little bit later also, they had what they called the Enlightenment movement. There were Jews that they really knew a lot of Torah. They knew a lot of Torah, and they completely went against Hashem and the Torah and the commandments. They scoffed at it. But you could tell them, why are you doing that? It says you're just. They could bring up 50 proofs why it's right. Why it's right. Right? It's because they didn't have this fear of God. The ultimate case was, of course, Yeravim ben Nevat, that he says he knew the whole Torah, he knew better than everybody else. All the other wise men of the generation were like weeds in the field compared to him. And he found ways to explain anything he did. Right? Anything that he did. There was Menashe also. These people were great geniuses in Torah. And they could find excuses for killing people, the worst things. Why? Because they were just lacking one little thing. They didn't have humility in front of God. They didn't have fear of God. So the Torah they could have, they were great geniuses. They could write books. They were great leaders. They led the Jewish people. People were they were entranced by them. They're so great. They grew up, but these people didn't have any fear of God. It says anybody whose wisdom is more than his fear of God, we're back in the Kahati, she'enu lomed al manat lasot. He's not learning in order to do what God says. Right, that was the problem with the spies. They said the Meraglim, the Rebbe says, their problem was that they were too wise. They didn't want to get down to the earth. Right, it's too dirty. Come on, you put on tefillin and things like that. Come on, that's not wise. Any fool can put on tefillin. Let the fools put on the tefillin. The stupid Jews, they'll put on the tefillin and do the commandments. We're learning Torah. We're up in the high worlds, right? So this is a very terrible mistake, tragic mistake. Ela be'ikar l'shem hasagat dat v'chachma. Their whole purpose in learning Torah is just to understand more knowledge and more wisdom. Then a person like that, in chachmas mekayemes, then his wisdom will not be sustained. Hoyel ve'ein bo yirat chet, because he does not have any fear of sin. Hari chachmato, therefore his wisdom mitapachat al panav. It gets smeared in his own face. Because he doesn't even do what he says. And because of this, therefore everyone will leave him and not have anything to do with it. There's a story that maybe I could tell you. I don't know if I will. It's not so nice, but I'll tell you maybe anyway. V'kein omer, and so it says, Benoeg shabaolam, Adam omer lachavero, a person that says to his friend, Ashirani, I am rich. Yesh li chitim harbe, I've got a lot of wheat. Shemen v'yayin, oil and wine, harbe a lot. Omer lachavero, his friend says, Hariyakol yesh b'yadech, you've got everything, all these riches and all this food and everything. Yeah, he says, yeah, right. Yesh lecha otzer, have you got a storehouse to put them? If you haven't got a storehouse, then you haven't got anything. It'll all just get eaten up by rodents and things like that. Kach, the same thing. Mishu asher v'chacham, a person who is wise, has tremendous knowledge of the Torah, but he's not afraid of sin. He's not afraid to go against God. Is in biyado klum. He hasn't got any boundaries. There's nothing to protect his wisdom. Shene'amar, like it says in Ecclesiastes, Sof davar hakol nishma et Elokim yireh. In the end, what is the final message that you should be taught? Et Elokim yireh, God you should fear, vet mitzvotav shamor, and you should do his commandments. Ki zeh kol adam, because that's the whole essence of what man is, to do what your Creator wants. A tremendous privilege that we can do what the Creator wants. That's one thing he used to say. Who Omer, he would say, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, Kol shemasav merubim mechachmaso, anyone whose deeds are more than his wisdom, shenoten hu ikar dato laharbos mamaisim tovim, that the main reason he's learning Torah is in order to do more good deeds, than chachmaso mitkayemet, and his wisdom it's sustained. She mitkashemet, he b'maisav, that his wisdom becomes manifested in his deeds. Kafi shebarnu leil, like we said before. Umavor Bartanura, but Rabbi Vadia of Bartanura explained, Sheba Mamra Kodem, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa is talking about being careful in the midst of the negative commandments. Right? Because a person that doesn't have any fear of God, so he eats whatever he wants, he does whatever he wants. And Shabbos, they say that there used to be boys in the yeshiva, the yeshivas, Lubavitcher yeshivas, I don't even know if it's true, but anyway, Lubavitcher yeshivas, that they used to write down ideas that they had on Shabbat. They would learn Gemara, they would write down, oh, it says in the Tosfos over here, one second, this Tosfos says the different, I got a question, they would write it down so that afterwards they could write a book and they would be famous, They would write it on Shabbos, on Shabbat. It says, the first part of this mission was talking about negative commandments. That you have to, if you're a person that has fear of God, then he's afraid to go against God's will, to do things that God does not want you to do. V'kan here, here he's talking about that you are careful to, yes, do what God wants you to do. And any person whose wisdom is more than his deed, shuhu lomed, he learns Torah, but he doesn't do anything, then his wisdom will not last. Why not? Since he doesn't do the deed, sofo, in the end, since in the end he will leave it and he will lose it. Some people say, and that's really what the source, how it was born, like Reform Judaism, after that conservative Judaism. A lot of these people, they really knew the Torah. They really knew very well, and they could explain. But their main emphasis was not so much on God. Their main emphasis was not on what God wants. The Torah is not a godly book. The Torah is a book of the Jews, right? Oh, it's a book of the Jews, right? It's a Jewish book, and therefore, you can take it. You can live. There's different types of Judaism. You can take it easy. You can take it. Here, the Rebbe says your main relationship has to be with God. Kol Hashem Ma'asev Merubim Chachmaso, a person whose deeds are more than his wisdom. Misha Mechanech et Ha'am b'Ma'asev, a person who is a good example, and he educates others by example, by what he does, more than just by his words, then his wisdom will last. In other words, the lessons that he teaches others, there it will be, then the lessons that he gives will last in others that he teaches them. Because people will say, hey, look, our teacher really does what he tells us to do. He himself does it. If a person actually does what he tells others to do, then his words that he tells them to do will be accepted by them. But anybody who's really very smart and he knows what to do, but he doesn't do it, that he knows how to speak wonderfully, but he doesn't do it, then the lessons that he gives will not take root. His words will not be accepted by others. We're going to learn another message by Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa tomorrow. Now let's do a little bit of Basar v'Chalav. All right, now we are on chapter Tzadik Hey. and we're learning